Hi everyone, this is the first movie for Access, Chapter 1, Pause and Practice 1. But actually this one is probably more about the database concepts. There are a couple movies in the materials folder that were created externally, and I think they're very good introductions into what a relational database is, and then the 4 object types of a database. So I really recommend that you take care of and watch those. I wanted to talk a little bit about some terminology. First of all, Access is a relational database. That means that the data is stored in tables, the object table, and those tables are related in some manner. For example, if I own a used car lot, I could have a table that has all of the vehicles on my lot. I could have a table that contains my salesmen. I could have a table that has a list of my customers. And then I could have a table that lists all of my sales. So a salesman could be related to a customer through a sale. So a salesman would make a sale. So the salesman would exist in the salesman table. The sale that they made would exist in the sales table. That would link to the customer information in the customer table, and it could relate to the vehicle found in the vehicle table. If a salesman could have a relationship with a vehicle if he sells that vehicle. If there's a car on the lot or truck on the lot and the salesman never sells that vehicle, they don't have a relationship. It's only through the selling of that vehicle that relationship is established. So you could have things that are alone, and then you could have things that relate to multiple things. And hopefully you have a salesman that sells many cars and trucks and is related to many vehicles and many customers through multiple sales. So I used a term there, object, and that was one of the things discussed in the movies that I asked you to watch. There's 4 main objects in Access. It's an object-oriented system. So there's tables, which stores your data. It's the only place the data is stored. There is forms, which are used to interface, to view your data through an interface, allows you to update and enter data in a nice, easier manner. There are reports which allow you to produce a quality output to be printed or to be shown on screen. And then the last one is a query, which is really just a question about your data. Going back to the used car lot, for salesman A, how many sales has salesman A made this month? That would be your question. You could make a query. Tell me what kind of vehicles have been sold this month. How many trucks? How many cars? How many SUVs? Those are all questions that would go against a table, look at the data in the table, produce the answer or the result set, and then more than likely you would output it through a nice stylized report. So all of these objects work together, and you need to understand each of the role. Within a table, which is the only place data is stored, you organize the data in what is known as records and fields. So we're going to start with the term field. A field is the smallest meaningful piece of data that you can store. For example, my name is Helen J. Mandolinich. How many fields do you think I would need to store my name? Hopefully you said 3. One for my first name, one for my middle name or middle initial, and one for my last name. And you might think, well, why do I need to separate that out? Well, if I ever wanted to produce a list alphabetically by last name, if I wanted to produce a form letter that would say, Dear Ms. Mandolinich, or what if I wanted to produce Dear Helen, Dear John, Dear Sam. So I need to have those pieces of information separated out. Just like city, state, zip, you would want each of those to be a separate field. So that would be 3 fields. Or when you're looking at a database, it looks like an Excel column. Those are fields. So you want to think about the smallest meaningful piece of data. And so, for example, a street address, 100 Main Street. you wouldn't really need to separate 100 from Main Street, because 100 is not going to get you to that person's address. Main Street alone is not going to get you. You have to have the 100 Main Street. That's the smallest meaningful piece of data, okay? So those fields then, everybody in the table has the same set of data, and those are the fields. When you look across at a row, that becomes a record. So if you look at all of the collected pieces of information about me, first name, middle name, last name, address, city, state, zip, phone, date of birth, whatever, all of those pieces of information, all of those columns, one row becomes a record, and that's all of the collected pieces of information about one person, place, or thing. Those records then, all of them are stored in what's known as a table. In Access, you can have many, many tables. The database file name has nothing to do with the table names, so that often confuses the student. So even up from the tables then, when you name your database, that's the name of the file, the name of the database. Within there you have multiple tables. Okay, so you have your objects, you have your set of data. Let's go ahead and start looking at Access. So first of all, we're just going to look at an existing database. That's this College of Sciences class. This is not the data file that we're going to work with. We're just going to pull it up and I'm going to explore it a little bit, and then we'll look at creating a new database and using this. See, this is an Excel file, so we're going to pull this data into the data that we're actually working. This is just a demo. So I'm going to download both of these. And they're going to sit down here in my tray, and I'm just going to pull up the College of Science classes. I'm going to enable the content. So if you look at Access, yes, it's very similar in the look, but it really is probably the one that is the most different. Over here is your object bar, tables, queries, forms, and reports. Notice that the icons look a little different that are next to it. So I'm going to pull up classes. So here's what I'm talking about. This is a field, 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 a record. This is all the information about one class. This look that we're looking at right now is what's known as Data Sheet View. If I want to go to Design View and see the inner workings of these fields, I need, on the Home tab, the very left button is the View button. You don't need to actually hit View, you just need to hit the picture at the top. So this will switch me to Design View. When I'm in Design View, that picture changes to, looks like almost an Excel file. That switches you back to Data Sheet. Design, Data Sheet. Design, Data Sheet. Alright, so we want to look at Design. So this is where we're going to start. And look, here's our field name, class ID, class name, department ID, section number, instructor ID, term. So these are all of the fields. Notice there's no spaces, and this is something that, and even this one, I would never put that slash there. I would have just done it like that, days, times, but I didn't create this. So you just want to keep all, and we use camel case. So thinking about the humps of a camel, so the C is capitalized, the next word capital, it goes up. Next word would be capital. So if you had, you know, section number, right? So all together, but the start letter of every new word is capitalized. It helps to break it up and let you read it. Over here are the data types. Every piece of information has to have what type of data it is. Is it a number? In other words, does it have, you know, you go back to thinking about Excel. Is it a value? Can I do math on it? So a number would be something numeric. Short text would be a text that is what's called fixed format. So if I click on this short text and I look at the property or characteristic about that field, it's 50 characters wide. That means every class name takes up 50 spaces in my file. okay? Term, 10. Location, 15. Days, times, 20. Notice when I go to number, though, it doesn't let me do a size. When the only field data type that you give a size to is short text. Everything else has its own size. All right, and we're going to do more with data types as we move through. I just wanted to, oh, I did a change, so let me get out of here. All right, save it. So there's department, there's instructors, and then there is queries. So this is running a query, so it's asking me fall or spring. I'm going to say fall. I have no idea. Okay, no data for that. I should have looked at the data before I put it in. So this, once again, design view of a query. Now this is way more complex than you can understand at this point, but you're going to get to the point where this makes sense to you. And a form is just a nice way of looking at the data instead of looking at it like an Excel file. And then a report. Let's see if I can pick a good, yeah, there was no, it would help if I picked a spring, 2015, so let's do that. So spring 2015, and there's my report, okay? So this is just a brief introduction of this information. Between the intro movies and looking and playing with this, you can't hurt this. You can play with it, do what it's just for you to look at. Take some time and do that, and then we're going to start in the next movie and the next pause and practice actually creating it and importing some data. All right, guys, thank you.